Hello, Coach Holmes here, and today we're going to be talking about the change in dimensions and how it affects the change in both area and perimeter. So for example, I have this rectangle here, okay? And how we describe the dimensions is we say it's 3 by 5, okay? 3 by 5, that's how we mention the dimensions of a rectangle, 3 by 5. So, for example, I want to find the perimeter of this figure here, or the original figure. So if I add, which by the way, I know that this has to be 5, this has to be 3, because opposite sides are congruent to each other. So I know I can add 3 plus 3 plus 5 plus 5, and that's going to give me 16. So the perimeter is 16 inches. And that's what these little marks tells me. It tells me in inches. Now if I want to find the area, remember it's base times the height. So in this case, 5 times 3, which gives me 15. Now, so if I want to find, now, let's just say we doubled the height. So for example, instead of being 3 right here, let me go ahead and erase this part right here. Instead of saying the height is 3, I double it to make it 6. I'm going to double the height. So that means that I'm doing 6 by 5. So again, opposite sides are congruent. So 6 plus 6 plus 5 plus 5. I know that gives me 12. This gives me 10. Add them both together, we get 22. So the perimeter is 22. Now, I want to be able to find the area. I want to find the area of the rectangle. So remember, I'm doing 6 times 5 because it's base times height. That's going to give me 30. So the area of that figure is 30. Okay? Now, let's say we want to triple the base and the height. Let's say we want to triple it. So that means, and what I mean by triple, I mean triple the original figure. So if I triple this, that instead of 3 it'll be 9, instead of 5 it'll be 15. So 9 by 15. So remember, I gotta add 2 9s and add 2 15s. So 15 plus 15 plus 9 plus 9 gives me 48. So the perimeter is 48. Now, again, to find area, we gotta multiply 15 by 9. And that gives me 135. And that'll give me the area of this rectangle, where it's 9 by 15. All right. Now, we're gonna hold on to this, and the notes, we'll write some more notes here describing, or at least what do you notice? What do you notice about the change? But we want to talk about this first. Let's find let's use triangles for example and see what we can come up with. So the original, well, remember, I gotta be able to find this length here, because even if I want to find perimeter of a triangle, I don't know what this length is. But guess what? I can use Pythagorean theorem. So 18 squared plus 24 squared equals c squared. All right. 18 squared is 324. 24 squared is 576. I want to add these two up to give me 900. Square root it. C equals 30. So this is a length of 30 right there. All right, and that's a length of 30. So the original is pretty much 18, 24, and 30. So if I want to find the perimeter, I'm just going to move it up to give me some more room. 18 plus 30 plus 24. Add them up. My perimeter is 72. Now, how do we find area? Remember, it's base times height divided by 2. That's the area of a triangle. Well, my base is 24, my height is 18, I gotta divide that by 2. So 24 times 18 for 32 over 2, which is 216. So the area is going to be 216, okay? Now, just to split it up and separate it, let's say I want to do half the base. So this changes. So if I change the base to make this 12, it does change this distance. It wouldn't necessarily be half. And to prove it to y'all, I can still use Pythagorean theorem to say 18 squared plus 12 squared equals c squared. Well, I know the 18 squared is 324. 12 squared is 144. So that means I'm doing 324 plus 144, 468. Take the square root of that. C equals 21.63. Okay, so my three lengths are 12, 18, 21.63. And I'm not putting in, and it's not in the actual order, so don't think, well, how did it get from 18 to 12? It's not the exact order. Now, we want to add up all the lengths. So I add them all up. That gives me 51.63. Now, if I want to find the area, remember, it's base times height. So the base is 12, the height is 18. I got to divide that by 2. So 12 times 18, which is 216, divide that by 2, and I get 108. So that will be my area for the figure. Now, if I do a third, and again, I'm going to talk about from the original figure. So it's really only going to change these two. So a third of that is 8. At least a third of 24 is 8, excuse me. And a third of 18 is 6. I got to be able to find what this length is. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right. Now, 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. Now, six squared is 36, 8 squared is 64. 36 plus 64 gives me 100. Take the square root of that. C is going to give me 10. So my dimensions is 6, 8, and 10. Okay? Simple idea. Now, because those are just my lengths. Now, if I want to find the perimeter, add them up. So 6 plus 8 plus 10 gives me 24. So my perimeter here is 24. Now, to find the area, remember, it's base, which is 8 times the height, which is 6. Divide that by 2. 48 divided by 2 happens to be 24. Okay, so that's going to be the area of my triangle if I take it by a third. So here's what I want y'all to notice. So if we actually change the dimensions by one of the dimensions, there's not, even if we look at all these different patterns and look at all these different possibilities, because let's look at these. I mean, let me slow down. Okay, compare these two. There's not really any way to look at how I got from 16 to 22 and 72 to 51.63. There's not really a pattern to it. But if I double the height, that gives me 30. Because if I double 15, that gives me 30. And if I take half of 216, that gives me 108. So if the dimensions change by one side the change, and I want to put, well, no, the change in area is the same as the factor. Okay, so if one side change, then only the area is changed to the same factor. So like for example, if I double the height, I double the area. If I take half of the base, I take half of the area. But notice that if I take a third, or at least if I take triple this, there's something else to it. So think about this. If I triple the base, if I triple the perimeter, which is 16, it does give me 48. Now, triple 15, that doesn't necessarily give me 135. But if I square the 3, makes it 9. So if I do 9 times 15 here, which remember is 3 squared, that gives me 135. Now, if I take a third of 72, that gives me 24. But if I square the third, makes it 1/9. Or if I divide 216 divided by 9, that gives me 24. So if the dimensions change both sides, or all sides, let's put it this way, then the change in perimeter is the same as the factor, and change in area is the factor squared. So for example, if I double the original, then I multiply it by 2 squared. If I multiply it by 5, the area changed by 5 squared. That's how we find a change in area and perimeter. If all the dimensions are the same, and I change all the dimensions by a certain factor, the perimeter changed by that factor. But the area is changed by the factor squared. Okay? Now, so again, just to recap, if I multiply, but now, if I only double the height, then only area is doubled. Perimeter is not really consistency. So again, just to recap, if I double or tripled by one side, the area is changed by that factor. But if I'm doubled, tripled, quadrupled, whatever, by the entire dimensions or all of the lengths, then the perimeter is changed by that factor and the area is changed by the factor squared. Thank you and have a good day.